How important is a US trade deal for India, and can this be salvaged?
See, I don't see a trade deal happening with the United States. Our positions are so different that there is very little possibility of a reconciliation. And now with Mr. Trump virtually acting like a storm, it's impossible to deal with or to have a deal with a storm kind of thing. Today, he's saying now that India is sort of buying cheap Russian oil and selling it at a profit and threatening penalties. I don't think situation is right at all to have a deal. You can keep the pretense of talking. That will not lead anywhere. You have to weather this storm for the time being, try to contain your damage. You can't give in to all kinds of demands. It's impossible for India to sort of give in to his demands. And therefore, I don't see a deal happening.
Are you suggesting, sir, that India should just walk away from these talks and that it would be ultimately in its national interest and national economic interest to do so?
See, you can't walk away literally in such kind of things. You have to keep talking, but don't talk from the point of weakness. From the point of view of trying to sort of give in or surrendering to his whims and fancies, trying to sort of accept all these unreasonable demands. And so you keep talking. If some sense emerges at some point of time, you may have some small side deal kind of thing, which to me also appears unlikely. So you can't walk, keep talking, but don't do anything.
India will do what is best for its national and economic interest, and permitting unfettered market access into India's agriculture sector is not in India's national interest nor economic interest. New Delhi has made that very clear, abundantly clear. If India will not agree to a trade deal with the United States in its current form, then what is the way forward?
See, all countries do what they perceive to be their national interest. So I don't think this is anything great as a point of stating. So America or Mr. Trump, as he sees what is in the national interest of America, is trying to get a deal or to force a deal on India. India would also similarly protect what it considers its interest. You may sometimes end up trying to protect those interests which may not be the real interests. For example, I don't see us sort of being so fussy about protecting the agriculture, dairy or soybeans, GM oils, etc. I think this kind of configuration is the mindset of 40, 50 years back. In current times, these don't. But you are boxed in. You have taken a certain kind of position. And if you do it now, before Trump, then you would be seen as surrendering. And the domestic constituency will simply not accept it. So, but what do you do in the current situation? You see, you look at, we have major exports to America, 85 billion dollars plus or something. And the whole intention is to sort of protect them. But you don't protect the headline number of trade of 85 billion. What is of India's real interest is that what is the profits we make out of it? What is the employment which generates here in those exports items which go to the United States? That's our real interest. But if you are operating on, let's say, profit of 5 to 10 or 15%, and you give in or you reduce your price by 25%, the whole logic of export simply disappears. And therefore, in these circumstances, my sense is, and I think it's quite well considered position as far as I am concerned. You let there be 25% tariff or higher, whatever. You offer, Indian exporters should offer to them their goods and services at the rate at which they were giving. Don't give any discounts on anything. If there is an American demand, they will buy. And let American consumers and the importers pay the tariff. Let them bear that. It may not battleize. You may have 10, 15, 20% loss of export, but that's fine. What you can't export to America in the meantime, there are two major ways out of that. One, you sort of supply that into the domestic constituency. There is a enormous amount of demand in the domestic constituency. And secondly, you try to diversify your export somewhere else.
Exactly.
Maybe you can sell at 5% less elsewhere and create a demand for that rather than giving a 25% concession or in price to America.
Can I pick up on that last point, sir? Because India is admittedly well on the road to diversifying its trade partners, trade deals and trade flows, whether it's through deals with the UK, India-EU trade deal perhaps is waiting in the wings. There's a flourishing GCC India economic corridor. So on that standard, does India need the United States?
Of course, India need. We have 20-25% of our merchandise export going to United States. You can't wish that away. And there is a big diaspora in America which needs Indian goods. A good deal of the import also sort of satisfies their need. They'll continue to buy, not a problem. But as you rightly mentioned, there is enormous opportunity elsewhere. EU, UK, we have done a kind of deal elsewhere. And if instead of sort of leaving out US completely, it will be great if whatever is the little loss, 10, 15, 20% of the export loss, take it like the Apple or the telecom, about $40 billion of exports to America in any case are exempt. They're not going to get affected adversely. It is the remaining $40 billion or so. If 20% of that is lost out, it's not a big deal. That can be transferred elsewhere. And therefore, there is no point in negotiating with Trump on a position of weakness.
Yes.
Negotiate as equals rather than trying to sort of cater to his whims and fancies.
So just on that point, do you feel India's economy is perhaps on not such a solid footing when you consider a number of factors? Unemployment or underemployment may be understated. There seems to be some cracks emerging within the consumer. Bad loans are rising, credit card defaults are rising. Yes, the rural economy in Tier 3, Tier 4 cities are in reasonably good shape. We know that. But are there problems that are being overlooked within the broader Indian economy?
So that's not because of Mr. Trump. That's because of our internal policy problems. We have sort of given up or reduced our reform agenda substantially. We have stopped privatizing the public sector entities. There is the capital expenditure, which kept up some of the investment in last 2 or 3 years, is reducing. We have enormous amount of problem on the new industrial technology issues, whether it is the EVs or the solar or the semiconductors or so that side we have weakness. We have not addressed that. So unless we address those and we have enormous strength on the services side, that is doing well, but that can still do better. So sort of transforming the economy.
Point, sir. That's my point. Do you feel that this current administration has been expending too much political effort and political capital on trade deals and moving closer towards the Trump administration and not enough attention to domestic structural reform, be it in land, labour, job creation, affordable housing and building a knowledge economy in the long term, importantly for India?
I would tend to agree with your characterization. I think we are overspending our political capital, our economic capital, so to say, to try to get some sort of larger strategic, economic, geopolitical kind of relationship with the United States. I think that's going to hurt us.
Or do you feel that this administration has to take a two-track approach, not only focus on structural reform, but are trade deals in the longer term a necessary stage towards getting FDI flowing into the country that will move the economy up the value chain, move it into advanced manufacturing, higher quality job creation, and ultimately the Viksit Bharat development targets?
That's true. I think we have been over defensive in our trade deals, whether it's RCEP or with the EU. It's good we have done recently a deal with UK, but most of our deals on trade side has been where we are over defensive, trying to defend the old kind of interests which are no longer relevant in my. Today we are a major agricultural exporter, unlike 1950s and 60s when we used to depend on so much of import. Farming situation has completely changed. We should recognize the new reality. The world, even in the industrial space and all, is completely changing. The new technologies which are required. So I think we should do very large deals with the world. And one of the things which we also must do, and we are not doing, which is hurting us very much, is to learn to do business with China. We've not figured out how do we do business. It's hurting us. We are now $100 billion trade deficit with China, and we paying through our notes,
very sensitive though, isn't it, sir? I'm sure you'd admit.
Sorry.
Politically very sensitive. Whenever we broach this subject of Indo-Chinese relations, either economically or politically, but there is a thaw going on.
There is no permanent political interests or positions, right? You take it at a point of time. It's in fact you yourself create that political positions, right? After that Doklam and other kind of things, we became very sort of nervy and sensitive about China. But recently we have started sort of opening up some dialogue. It's coming after 5 years late, and still it is baby steps. I think if we want to do business, we are talking economy and business. The politics should be subordinate there. If we want to do our business or serve our business interest, I think we shouldn't permanently box ourselves into that situation of not doing business with China because we have some political problems.